want to know how much you... Hello! I'm smiling. I don't really know why, because I've got two lovely people with me this morning to cheer me up. Welcome to An Echo of Glory. I'm Johnny Blaine. That's Jake Robson.
Hello.
That's James Robbins.
Hiya.
Hi. We are smiling.
Oh, look.
Green. Different shades of green.
2 shades of green. Do you know what green is the colour of?
No.
Envy.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Envious of Liverpool.
Envious of Liverpool. I'm dressed all in black, which is the colour of...
Spurs' funeral.
Depression.
Like it. Here's a question.
Doom.
How many minutes of last night's game did you watch? All 90?
89.
89. James?
Yeah, unfortunately, all of it.
I got to 3-0 and went, no.
Not for me, Clive.
I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out. And you know what? I just wasn't excited all day. I don't have any... what's her name? Abby Summers on Twitter. Yeah, sorry to do that. Whatever. She was like, "Oh my god, I had so much hope." What? Where's the hope in this team? I have no hope in this team. I'm going big at the start here. I have no hope in this team. Well, we had a conversation yesterday morning, Jake. I said to you, I think it could be 4 or 5, and you went, nah, and I went, yeah, okay, maybe not 4 or 5. I don't know. Certainly away from home at the moment. I know we're actually rubbish at home too. I don't enjoy watching us. I have no hope right now.
I really enjoyed the Brentford game because...
Did you?
Yeah, because it was like... We're really like...
Dogged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've kind of called out for that. So the Brentford game gave me some false hope because I thought, actually, this plan can work. It's not going to work against every team and it's probably not going to work against Liverpool.
Well,
But of a Premier League game away from home... We said it last week. I said it on Monday. To go away to Brentford, who are the top home scorers in the league, and actually come away with a win
And a clean sheet.
and a clean sheet.
well,
was
do you know
like,
what? Thank God we did, because I still
God we
because I
did.
just don't think we're very good, and I wonder what's going to happen between now and I don't know the end of the season.
It's the same way. I was excited up until the day, and then the stress kicks in for the Liverpool match. But again, the Brentford game, it was just exactly what I wanted to see. Rolling around on the floor, players going down with cramp. In inverted commas, just wasting time, being pricks to try and push through a win.
Well, look at Newcastle.
And it worked.
Look at Newcastle. That's what they do.
And it's what Poch did with us, and we played great football under Poch, but he knew, like, he wanted us to be pricks. He wanted us to go down. He wanted us to dive. He said, I want us to dive well, basically.
Yeah.
It was one of his famous comments.
What was it you said to me, Jake? That's by the way, we had a better aggregate score than Arsenal over the 2 legs, so that's something. Jake, you said to me that Eddie Howe went to see Simeone?
Yeah, he did. In between his time at Bournemouth and Newcastle, I don't know how long he spent, but it wasn't just like went for a week or a weekend. I think he went for a while, a period of time.
All inclusive for a couple of weeks.
In
around the
Madrid.
Simeones.
Lovely city. Around the Simeones, exactly. And he spent some time there. Watching him, studying him, and I think the way that he came back as Newcastle, because I've said this, people forget this. Bournemouth could not defend, and Howe was their manager.
Oh yeah, they really couldn't defend.
No, they couldn't, and in the end, it was their undoing. In the why they went down. Did he take them down, or has he gone before they went down? I can't remember. But they went down, didn't they?
Didn't Parker take them down?
Not sure. The fact is, Bournemouth, lovely team, can play lovely football. Callum Wilson, who was the Norwegian guy they had playing off him?
Josh King.
Josh King,
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
but you can see that
He came to Newcastle, and Newcastle are now built on being dogged, solid defensively, shithousery, and that has all come from him.
He's not a manager I'd take at Spurs, but like his adaptability is one of his key strengths. Like the way he approaches every game is really interesting and a testament to kind of, I think, what fans think management is quite often, which is, tinkering and changing a fair bit to the opposition. Which I think all managers tinker, but he'll change the formation. He'll do lots of different things. Funny you mentioned Simeone. The defensive master, I watched the video the other day and caught a bit of Atletico. He's gone all attacking. Plays 2 false nines, plays a 4-4-2, has Griezmann dropping in, and then plays Alvarez with him. Too small. Like he's completely changed.
It's like Football Manager when you get to like season 10 and you're really bored. So he's been there for so long. He's like, I've had enough. I'm trying something new.
And they're smashing it.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
Has he won a lot there? Did he win the league once?
They won the league, didn't they?
Yeah.
They've got to like 6 Champions League finals and not won any of them. That's not the official stat.
I think it's about
feels
3,
like it.
Well, I wouldn't take Howe because Spurs' ethos is all about an attacking manager, and as bad as it's got under Ange, who I think is an idealistic form of attacking manager, who actually it was probably too ideal. I don't think Howe is that attacking manager that Spurs fans will take to. And we've had Jose and Conte, and I'm not saying Howe's like them per se, but I don't think Spurs fans will accept.
I think Spurs
a super unattacking manager.
I'm not saying I'm not part of this, and I don't want to pick out people to have a go at me for this, but I think Spurs fans' snobbery on managers needs to probably change and just get a good manager, whoever it is.
I think that the Eddie Howe from Bournemouth, you wouldn't be saying this because they played football the right way, but
probably.
I don't think we're in a position to be saying I wouldn't take Eddie Howe. Why would Eddie Howe be coming to Tottenham?
Anyway, I'm bored of talking about Eddie Howe. Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur and Ange Postecoglou. So we go into the League Cup semi-final, our biggest game in a long time since the last semi-final,
which was it 2021?
Which would have been Chelsea, a 2-legged tie against Chelsea.
No, the one we won.
What?
The one that Jose got fired after. We've been at one since.
Brentford. But we talked about this. We don't know. Yes, you're right. The one-legged game against Brentford.
I forgot it was one-legged.
Yeah. I feel like that just wasn't a big game because it was just
here's one for you. Where was it? Was it played at?
Yeah, we won 2-0. So
where was it played?
Sissoko and Kane.
At ours?
Yeah. Oh. They had a goal ruled out for VAR, I think, at 0-0. Anyway, so we go into last night's game 1-0 up after a really good performance in the first leg, which feels like ages ago. It was like a month ago. Did we have
it actually was a month ago.
It was a month ago. Did we have any new injuries? No, we didn't have any new injuries, but we heard that Van der Ven wasn't ready, and Romero isn't ready, and we did have a new injury. Dragusin did his ACL confirmed, so he was out. So we lined up like this: Antonin Kinski, under-21 international goalkeeper; Archie Gray, under-21 right back; Kevin Danso, international footballer, 24 caps for Austria.
Hold on.
No, I'm doing
Archie
this.
Archie Gray's not an under-21 right back.
Under-21 footballer.
He's an under-21 footballer.
I'm just bear with me. Kevin Danso, 24 caps for Austria, played well. Ben Davies, Wales captain. Jed Spence will probably play for England one day.
He's got to be in the next squad.
He's for Suma, international footballer. Rodrigo Bentancur, international footballer. Papsar, international footballer. Dejan Kulusevski, international footballer. Captain. Richarlison, international person. Is he a footballer? I don't know. Not anymore. And Son Heung-min.
It's all gone.
It's all gone. It's all breaking in here. International footballer.
Here.
And the reason I say that is because skipping forward to full time, I had a conversation with a Liverpool friend, Dan Garb, friend of the show. And I was like, that performance was one of the worst I've ever seen from Tottenham Hotspur. He was like, really, really? I was like, yeah, do you know what? These are all international footballers. And he said, well, most Premier League teams are full of international footballers. And I agree with that. That's absolutely right. But I go back to the point I said a few weeks ago. Most Premier League footballers are of a certain level, and you've obviously got your elite above that. Salah being one of those people. Son probably was one of those players. The way that our top footballers, I'm going to excuse your Kinski, Gray, Danso, Spence.
We've got to talk about.
Well, he's
question
21.
marks over. Yes, that's the caveat. But I do want to touch on Kinski.
Fine. But just overall, the way these international footballers, whether they're international footballers or not, the way these brilliant footballers are currently playing is way below their level. Mm-hmm. And for me, that comes from, yes, they're tired. Yes, they've been run into the ground. And we saw that graphic we slightly touched on last week, where Spurs are up there for sprints, and no wonder all their hamstrings and calves are blowing up. I've been banging this drum for far too long. This manager's just out of his depth. But the way they're being set up, how are we getting rolled over time after time? And last night was one of, and a couple of people have said it in the comments. Son of a Gun says, I've been watching Spurs since 1958, and that was one of the worst performances. That, for me, I've been watching Spurs since 87. One of the worst performances I have ever seen, especially when you link it to how big the game was.
Yeah, it's context matters, because I remember the 5-0 loss that sacked Davey B.
Yeah, but that was like end-of-day stuff for a manager.
This was one of the most disappointing performances we've had. To get the small caveats out of the way so I can go on a rant, knackered. And you could tell Liverpool brought on their substitutes that they were able to bring on.
Yep.
They took off Jones, Van Dijk, Nunes, Salah, and were able to bring on McAllister, Jota, Harvey Elliott, Luis Diaz, and Jarrell Kwanzaa.
Because they have got no injuries. Because
they've got one injury. We were able to bring on brand new Matis Tel, which was exciting. Pedro Porro, that's not been able to run for about 3 months. An 18-year-old Lucas Bergvall, who was going to get... I was quite happy he didn't start, in a sense, because he was going to get hounded by that crowd after the first leg. And then 17-year-old Mikey Moore, who we're putting way too much pressure on his shoulders.
Just James, on that, Pedro Porro coming off the bench.
Yeah.
We've been banging the drum, I keep using that phrase, for him to be rested for a long time. All of a sudden, he's rested in the semi-final. What's that about?
So in terms of lineup, I was quite happy with that, and I theorised it was because of Hakpo's height and Porro against... he's been beaten in the air.
I don't think Liverpool are playing Gakpo for his height.
No, but he does win headers at the back post, and Porro has been known to not defend those very well. And I think quite early on in the match, we did see at least that Gray was able to get. But there was a moment in the first.
There was a moment in the first half where we recycled the ball, and Sarr looked out to his right, and Gray. And this is not a criticism of Gray, was stuck in the right back position.
Yeah,
and it was a moment where Sarr was like, "Where's my right back?" Because Porro would have been
up there.
He would have been in between Gakpo and Robertson in that space, and almost, I wouldn't say set the tone, because the tone didn't need to be set last night. I was like, okay, this is how we're going to play this game, and it was just a sign of we're not interested in getting out of our half.
So I liked some of the lineup. I thought the midfield three was very Liverpool Klopp-esque, but then you need the press, and so there was no press.
That was only the second time that midfield three had played together for Spurs. The previous time was Liverpool away when we lost 4-2.
Now, someone says don't mention injuries. We kind of have to, because that means why the players are so knackered. But the lack of fight was disgusting, and that midfield three. Before the game, I was like, okay, cool. So we're going to press. We've got legs in midfield. We can do the Klopp Liverpool thing where, the front three and maybe the fullbacks like Spence and Gray are creating, and the midfield three are just energetic and there to bring transitions. Nah, they were abysmal. You love Bentancur, I know this. I thought he there's a reason he got bombed out of Juventus for playing as a number 6. He was always terrible there. He has no awareness over his shoulder ever. I don't think he can hear footsteps coming. He just dwells on the ball so much. I thought Basuma actually was having an all right time of it in a bad game up until his mistake that led to the first goal.
Yeah, and we still don't know what Sarr is.
No, he's been way off it. And then Sarr, out of the three of them, Sarr's the only one I'd keep, because one, he's young and you can see what he offers. He drives up the pitch, tidy in possession, and he gets goals, gets in the box. But honestly, the defence is one thing. For me, the game was lost by the midfield and the forwards. They were abysmal. Also, we pressed really high without much of an intensity, and then we would leave the defence deep, and there was this big gaping hole in midfield that we had it under Nuno, because he would do it because we wanted him to play attacking football, and he was rubbish for us. I do think the football trends have gone to Nuno's style, weirdly, and that's why he's being so successful. And he likes to be an underdog. I think he's doing great. Good for him. But anyway, it just left a hole in midfield so he could win no second balls. Absolutely none. And then Liverpool could just also, it just felt like they could just pass through us.
Yeah.
They were a knife through butter. And by like 60 minutes, whatever legs we had, they were gone again. Richarlison's injured again, which is devastating. I'm really gutted for him. But for heaven's sake, we need a striker that's going to be fit. Now we've got to play a 19-year-old up front every minute until Solanke's back. Or it might
be Son.
Or Son. It's just irritating.
Jake, I don't think, as James says, he was happy with the lineup. When I look at those players in isolation, I'm like, I like all three of those midfielders, but they don't seem to work together. You wanted Bergwijn to start.
I just wanted Kulusevski to play as a 10 through the middle.
Yeah.
Don't care how else you form the team. Whether it was to give, I actually said on Monday I wouldn't be that against, and I'm not one of these guys that's like play the kids. I want academy products. I'm not. That's not me. But the way that he played last weekend, I thought, and the way that Andy Robertson has been playing this season, I thought Mikey Moore against Andy Robertson, I don't mind it so much. And if it means we have a 10, that system last night, I thought that was the first mistake, and we saw it. We've seen it in other games this season. I just think Bergvall, maybe. I don't think he's not a 10. Sarr's definitely not a 10. Whenever Kulusevski picked up the ball out on the right wing, he was isolated. Archie Gray's not a right back, so he wasn't pushing up, as you said. He looked inside. There's Richarlison, who's marked by Konate and Van Dijk. There's no one in the middle for a square pass inside. Kulusevski lose the ball. What you want is any other person where Kulusevski was, and you want Kulusevski to be up as a link play. There was nothing between Sarr and Richarlison.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to get out and attack, I mean, actually, Richarlison's hold-up play is all right. He's quite strong.
He wasn't playing that badly.
He wasn't playing that badly, but you can't be a hold-up player if you haven't got players running off you.
Yeah. And that happened so many times.
Yeah, because there was no one. So if you're just from a technical
own.
point of view, if you're receiving the ball with your back to goal, you need someone there
off you.
Yeah. And there wasn't anyone off him. And Kulusevski has been one of our, if not our best player this season. But most of his performances have been playing as a 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I just and you look at those three midfielders. Yeah, you say we're Klopp's Liverpool, but like.
It didn't happen though, did it?
I think the idea.
That was the idea, I thought.
Yeah.
But it didn't, like you mentioned that.
But the other problem is, and I know maybe Ange doesn't see it this way, but Son like is offering us nothing.
Nothing.
So you're basically, you could point to where you've still got your three forwards, but Son's offering us nothing. Kulusevski is playing out of position, and so many times, he had an awful game last night, but so many times he runs down blind alleys where he's got two guys and he just runs into them. And
the old Blackburn player.
Yeah.
Talking of two guy, I just want to pick up on what Jake, what you're saying. Pat Foley, we need two experienced midfielders in the summer. Every time we play a game at Spurs, at the end of the game, I'm like, right, actually, this is what we need. And I think all of us throughout the season have thought, midfield, we're quite stacked. It's not a position we need to focus on. We need a centre-back. We needed this. We needed that. And actually, last night, and we talk about Bergwijn, and we like Bergwijn, like you say, he's a kid. So you're sending these kids out to win semi-finals.
Well, the senior players do next to nothing.
Right, so maybe actually now the focus is now going to be on the centre midfield.
I don't agree, because I think
we've still got Maddison around.
We could have done.
If you have an actual, if you think about how we've played, or we think we will be playing, whatever you call it, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, but with a sort of somebody playing off. Somebody's always
last
playing
night. It felt like 4-0-0-1.
If you start by saying a 10 has to play off the striker, whether it's Kulusevski or Maddison, you then look at who are the two that should be playing behind them. Your two sixes, if you like. Then I don't mind if it's Bissouma and Sarr, for example, or Bentancur. Two of those three. I think what you will get out of them is completely different as to what you would get out of them as a three playing together, because there's no outlet, there's no end product, there's no creativity.
Yeah, it's just three people in a line.
It's just
doing
three people
the same thing.
I think if you almost, maybe not quite. I think you could have your first choice out of those three. Your first two choices, as it were, but almost whichever three you put in the two. You're still going to be a different team if you have a 10.
But is the problem Oh, Jake, you got a well said, Jake. Your first one. Joking.
There was no passing forward
but hang
from
on,
that midfield
Jake.
at all.
Well, yeah, so
that's why you need a Maddison.
Yeah, because who's the
we're
passer?
We're talking about
Sarr is having to be. He was obviously the furthest asked to be the furthest one forward. It's not his game.
Which I don't know why it wasn't Bentancur, because Bentancur has been a quality 8 in his time.
Possibly because he doesn't have the legs to then get back.
But his passing was so conservative. He wasn't going forward.
No one was passing forward.
And then, I think a huge point you made about Richarlison up front on his own, like just with no support. It was so clear. I thought for him, like the effort he put in was the fight we wanted. There was a couple players, and he was one of them, not many of them, him and Spence really fighting. And Richarlison was trying to hold the ball up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But you're right, no one was there. There was nobody there to support him running off him. No midfielders Sarr normally makes that run off him.
Yeah,
is the problem, as Joe says here, we have no six. If you've got a solid six, your Bentancurs, your Sarrs, who are not sixes, can push up a little bit. They're asking to do roles that they're not comfortable or good at doing. So is the focus now an actual six?
I don't know who it is in the market.
Well, it's not
this is the hardest.
It's not for us.
We said this last season. Bissouma started the season, and then when it all went to shit after 10 games, we sort of said, well, he's not really a six.
Yeah.
Gary had always said he saw him as maybe somebody that would play further forward. And then we were having these conversations. Who's out there? Who are your sixes? Who else?
Well, who's the guy from Betis we were supposed to have this deal with, and now he's signed a new contract?
Just got that contract. I don't think affects our deal.
Right.
It's not worth the paper it's written on. Who is it?
Johnny Cardozo.
Johnny Come Lately. Get him in.
Great name.
Great name. Zubimendi's the one that everyone's talking about, but he's going to be 100 million, 120 million. Declan Rice. Okay, Premier League tax was 100 and...
Rice isn't a 6 though either.
And now we're sort of deciding he's not a 6. You know, these guys aren't out there. It's not every team play. Who's Liverpool's 6? Gravenberch. But when he signed, not sure he was the 6, but all of a sudden slots turned him, you know...
Gravenberch's like the second coming of Moussa Dembele.
He's playing really well.
He's really, really good. Yeah. Like, Johnny Cardozo, we've said it, I've said it umpteen times, we want a passy 6 who can also destroy and be and you know make tactical fouls and stuff. There aren't many out there unless you can get Rodri out of City, or you say Zubimendi, who looks like he's already agreed to go to Arsenal in the summer. But someone that can just pass tidy to a more technical player that like Maddison or Kulusevski, Bergvall,
just move the ball up the pitch.
And Johnny Cardozo, if you can make some tackles and defend, then great, because our 6th position is the hardest to play in world football. I think they're just so isolated on their own.
What I thought was a shame, and it's not really a mitigation in the sense, but what I thought was a shame that after 20 minutes you're watching that going, we're slowing the game down. Richarlison's rolling around. The goalie's taking his time with goal kicks. We're receiving the ball, and it's not the mad rush to get the ball forward. We're kind of going back. Okay, they're pressing us. That's going to happen against Liverpool, like whatever team you are. That's just the way they play. You're sort of thinking, okay, we're not going to be able to do this for the whole game, but I like what I've seen in the first. I didn't feel like they created loads of chances. Okay, they had a lot of the ball. It was pressure.
But you know what? I agree with you. I felt like we've taken this thing out. They've done them singing and all that stuff.
Exactly.
20 minutes. You've taken this. Now let's start to build.
Yes.
And none of that happened.
The problem was I think the way that Ange set the team up with those midfield 3 to go away, trying to keep it tight. Obviously, you know, you think of the great defensive masterclasses of all time. You know, your Mourinho, Inter Milans. You know, who's in defence for them?
Well, you're not putting Brentford away as one of the great defensive performances of all time.
You know, it's got to be built on
rock and roll,
a wall of defenders.
Yeah.
You know, think of your great defenders your great defensive.
Alderweireld and Vertonghen.
You know, it's just it could have worked, but it was like nice idea. But
all right, so we had a bit of a set to. Obviously, it's all banter, Jake. Last night, well, me and you, where you were like, look at that defence. A quick stop, Kevin Danso. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with the way he played. Looks physical, strong, quick, can pass. Wants to pass between the lines.
Yeah. And is happy to take the ball.
Yeah,
is comfortable.
The Romero replacement. Ultimately,
he dribbled upfield.
Yeah.
I loved that he would drive up and put the ball directly out to Kulusevski.
Yeah, quickly.
He made a run straight through the middle of the Liverpool team at one point. And it's the drive you want to see. I was really, really pleased with him.
Can I just continue my argument with Jake?
Please.
You're in between us now. You're gonna have to you were like, how can you not be beaten 4-0 by Liverpool when we got this defence playing? I don't think the defence is a problem. It's makeshift. We just discussed it, but what's going on in front of them and the way they're set up and drilled and coached right now is a complete mess. I feel sorry for the defence. So you're saying, of course we've lost 4-0. We can't just turn up to Liverpool and just expect to lose 4-0.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I think with that defence and goalkeeper situation that you put out, I think you can.
Right, talk to me about Kinski.
I love the guy. Yeah, what's
he's getting some taps.
What's wrong with Anthony?
He's 21. I almost don't think it's worth. He's 21.
He is 21, and that is huge. He's far too young to be a goalkeeper in a team such as ours,
with the defence constantly changing in front of him.
However, one thing I will not discount him for is his bravery. Mm-hmm. He had some rough moments trying to pass the ball out last night. 63% pass completion for a goalkeeper is tough.
Yeah, but
really tough.
A lot of that's whacking up to Richarlison.
And then accurate long balls 7 out of 15, which whatever. He's brave. Really like that. Really like that he tries stuff on the ball, and I really don't want his head to drop. The fact that he's made some mistakes, couple of passes straight out, not long ones along the floor, passes straight out of play. His shot stopping leaves something.
I did wonder what
to be
he
wanted.
did leave his hands at home last night.
I think it was the second goal. I think
no, it was the first, wasn't it?
Yes, first.
The second was a penalty.
To his right, down to his bottom right.
It was the first.
He should be saving that.
Do you know what, James? Actually,
I think Austin would have saved.
It's the Gakpo, the one that hit the post for me. I was like, where were your hands? And I really don't want to get through to how you're criticising the guy. He's 21, but we weren't. Is Vicario going to come back? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I think there was one thing I have liked about Kinski is catching it. I know it's mad to say. I think it's the old English expectation of a keeper. And then I remember more continental keepers coming in and they're all punching it. Kinski will do both. He'll catch it and he'll punch it. There was one last night where he puts his hands up
it as well.
and he just punches it. And
I think he was worried about Van Dijk. He didn't see that Van Dijk had.
There was no one there.
Yeah, but Van Dijk went to move,
wouldn't you? Because then if you're going to get elbowed in the back of the head, or
1 second
or the nose,
in a second. There's a good keeper in there.
There is for the future he could be unbelievable. Right now his shot stopping is just not good enough. But the rest of his play is really good. But he was really he's probably been a little disappointing in most of the games at times, except for his debut where he was excellent.
I think that's harsh. I can't remember any mistakes that he's made that have led to goals apart
just
from
a couple of rough moments.
And a 21-year-old who's come in mid-season, new country, new league, playing behind that defence. Like,
I don't think these are not criticisms; they're observations of.
These are.
I mean, what do you expect?
These are where I think he's going to be for the rest of his career. Right. It's just those caveats are all completely valid.
Yeah.
It's just last night he wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
You guys talked about the defence, and it's a defence that doesn't know each other very well. You want a defence to almost play as much as possible. At least his centre back pairings play as much as possible together. But I don't think it was their fault.
Well, they don't because Danso was his first game.
Yes, of course.
Well, this is the thing.
I don't think it was their fault. It was everything in front of them.
That's my point.
Completely isolated.
Yeah.
And so easy to get at. There was nothing to defend them in front of them. They were left in no man's land, and we got picked off.
But for example, the first goal. Archie Gray, who's not what position is he?
Centre mid. Not allowed to play.
I know he's a centre mid.
Not allowed to play.
I think he's a fantastic centre back. Weirdly,
yeah.
The ball has ended up. He's got drawn in. He's got drawn into where the play's coming from. The ball's ended up going over. Over his head. Salah's put that cross in. Was it Danso that's missed the ball completely when the cross has come in? And Gray is then too tight, and Gakpo's behind him. Gray's not a right back. He's been done over. The penalty. I'm just thinking. Where's the way? Who was it that got fouled?
Davies gave the ball away.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Gakpo got fouled.
Gakpo got fouled.
It was a great ball.
It was a great ball, but you're thinking if Van der Ven's there, that
of
ball's
course,
not.
but they're not.
But they're not. But I think that's part of the point, isn't it? Ben Davies, he's good, but having to play alongside. I just think that they're turning up to work going, who am I playing with today? In defence.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times, different combinations of back four we've had this season. You can't even count it, can you?
I probably could, but I'm not going to do it now. I just have to write it out manually.
Yeah. And last night was definitely another one because Danso hadn't played a game. Yeah, I agree that what's going on in front is a mess. But the problem is, I correct me if I'm wrong.
There's problems everywhere.
When you're playing in a team like Tottenham, coached by someone like Ange, is it not that old adage that your defence starts from the front? Because we've been so good.
The press is gone.
Yeah. And again, if you're having different players coming in and playing different positions every week, isn't that the press is going to suffer? Because it's something that is. Firstly, a lot of it when they press really effectively, a lot of it is kind of like you know where your partner's going, so you know where you go, and you know who's going to be behind you. And if you're all playing different positions every week, or if you've got different players coming in every week, how is that something that you can get repetition and manage to pull off?
I think our press has been up for the most part under Ange up until this injury crisis has been good. Where now we're not even playing Ange ball anymore.
That's the thing.
That idea that passing move against Brentford for Sarr's goal was Ange ball. It's like, are we just going to say every passing move
just
now
footballers
is over?
Being footballers.
That was really nice play, and yes, it's a part of his football. But for me, Ange ball is high press, win the ball high turnovers.
I don't think we've seen it since Chelsea last November. I really don't.
We haven't.
Or 2 Novembers ago.
And for me, it's not necessarily a case of the different personnel that much. Yeah, I don't think it helps, but the lack of rotation and the injuries and having tired legs so you can't press is the biggest problem. As I mentioned earlier on, we don't have that high defensive line. There's no point in having a high press without a high line because you just leave a gaping hole in the middle of the pitch for them to exploit. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
There were moments the line was high yesterday, but not really. And I don't blame Danzo can get back quick, and Spence can, but Davis and Gray certainly can't. We are not playing Ange ball, and I think I was listening to some other stuff this morning, and they were saying I think Ange has kind of gone against his principles to try and salvage something. The Brentford game, this game set up to not. I don't want to say it's to appease anyone, but needs must. We are really bare bones at this point, and his football is not working. And if his style isn't working, and he hasn't, and we're changing it up, how are we going to be that successful? Almost want his stubbornness back. Almost want him to be like, I don't care, you're going to press and you're going to fall apart. But like,
well, so we would have lost 4-0 or 5-0 either way, basically.
Yeah, but I don't know where we are now. Like, yes, I'm on the kind of Ange outside, but also I'm like, I don't know what we do.
But if we'd lost 5-0 playing headless chicken football, then people would have complained that he had.
Well, this is the point. What are we at the moment?
It might have been fight though. Might have looked like fight.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is what a lot of people were calling for. But yeah, I do think in retrospect, if that actually happened, people would just be moaning about something else.
Well, that he didn't have a plan B.
Yeah. Yes. So
he's tried plan B and it hasn't worked.
Quick question: should Van Dijk have been sent off? Yes or no?
No.
I think he should have got a yellow. I can't believe he didn't even get a yellow. So basically, can VAR give a yellow though?
No.
Can they advise? No. Well, there you go.
Which is silly. I think VAR should be able to overturn everything if they're going to actually be involved in football. It's either everything or nothing.
Yeah, they could say that's not a red, but
it's a yellow.
It's definitely it's a yellow.
No, but as in that's what they could say because otherwise.
But then they really are re-reffing the game, which is what they didn't want to do.
It's just you've got technology there to be able to see the game better. It's not re-ref. That's the thing.
I hate that phrase.
Me too. It should be a collaboration. If you want the right decision to be reached, do everything in your power to get to that right decision. Not have this rubbish about the game being re-refereed. They are the referees.
They are refereeing team.
Yeah.
There's always been 4 referees at a match anyway, so what does it make a difference if there's a couple in a studio somewhere? That's fine. Yeah, re-refereeing is so dumb.
In the old days, if a ref didn't see something and the linesman thought he saw something, he would flag and say so and so has punched him or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference between now having, as you said, a couple of more guys who've actually got access to cameras and replays and that
completely
kind of
thing. Right.
Just want to go through some of the comments. We're going to be joined by Seb Stafford-Blore shortly, Spurs fan, German football experts, and we're going to get him to talk about, is it Matthias Tell. A few comments. Michelle Lawrence, there needs to be a change of manager in the summer. We talked last week about maybe this is Ange's just sort of interim between now and the summer. Don't know. People have got their own opinions on that. Well, I like this from Henry. I don't know if you've just joined in the chat, joined the pod.
Welcome.
Yeah, no.
You picked a good time.
A tactical disaster class, no link between defence, midfield, and attack. We talked about that. Again, for all their injuries, you could still set a team up to play better than they did last night.
Just fight, because losing 4-0 to probably the best team in the country is.
But out of
awful
interest,
any day, but like it could have been a 2-0 loss and painful. But we've gone out there and we've got some shots off on target and we've had a chance and we fought. But there was none of that except from I think a few players like Richarlison, Spence. Spence is different class.
And did you enjoy him playing right wing? Was that
I hated
was
it.
that better or worse than when Son got put left wing back by Poch in that Chelsea semi-final?
So I get why you loved it. I liked it from his style, his dribbling and getting crossing and his attacking and his verve, almost like being up there and doing it. But leaving Gray to defend Salah, that was my problem.
Spence had him again like he did in the first leg.
He really did. But there was a point.
Go on, Jake. Go on, we're getting Seb to come on now.
There was a point in the first half where they swapped sides. Did anyone notice that?
Yeah, there was. I don't know.
What do we think?
I think it was from a corner, and they were just in the wrong. They were just. Hi, Seb. Hi, Seb.
Hi, Seb.
The producer said say hi, Seb, but I can't see Seb. All right, thanks, James. There's Seb. Hello, can you hear us?
The night then, did we?
What's that? Say again.
We all made it through the night then.
We made it through the night. How are you, Seb? Thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all, guys. I'm good. How are you all?
Yeah, I say therapy, but it's not a good session. So we got you on. We are going to come to your expertise on Tell and German football, but you're a Tottenham fan too. Talk to us. Jake Robson's left the building.
I've got to get batteries.
His pack's not working. Talk to us about last night.
I feel like I've seen that dozens of times before.
Mm.
I almost, I had this moment during the afternoon where I was like, I just might not even watch this.
No, I was there, yeah.
Because there's no, I live in Germany, and there's no broadcaster for the League Cup, so you have to kind of get a little bit clever with your viewing solution.
Yeah.
And I got to about 3 or 4 o'clock, and I just thought, I know what I'm going to watch. Obviously, I watched the game, but I was kind of angry at myself for doing so, because by the time game kicked off, I just thought, can you imagine, like, we could just hold out here, and it would be such a tonic for what the season has been to watch these knackered players survive behind the ball and get to Wembley, by which time a lot of players will be back and there'll be a lot of first choice players available. And then first goal went in and I just knew what I was going to watch from then on. And it was just so... I don't want to use words like spineless, because I feel like that does a real disservice to what some of these players have been through and the situation, let's be clear, that they've been put in by the club, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't feel proud watching it. I think that's the political way of answering the question.
So where are you overall? You've just sort of mentioned, without mentioning there, what your thoughts might be on the club, but where are you on Ange and the season overall? We've not spoken to you, I don't think, this season. So where are you at the moment?
I have thoughts in capital letters on Ange, and I think he has a need to be a little less stubborn, and I think he also needs to stop creating problems for himself in press conferences. He has this habit of being a little bit sensitive towards questions which sometimes are not reasonable. I get it. Sometimes media people ask questions which are provocative and difficult to hear. I get that. Sometimes he snaps at people for no reason. I think, like, sometimes, perfectly innocent questions about the team's form.
Yeah.
There was that one a couple of weeks ago when I forget who the reporter was, but someone says, "Oh, familiar story." He was like, "Well, that's a good way to start an interview." I was like, "Well,
we lost again."
Get the fixture. Yeah. I mean, it is. Like, sorry, no one wants it to be that way, but it is. But I think whatever I think about Ange comes second to what I think about the way the club is run and the kind of the commitment to trying to win. And yeah, like, it's nice to finish the window with Kevin Danso, who I didn't really know very much beyond what he did at Southampton. I saw him a little bit in the German second division, but that didn't feel like a fair context. That's great. I will get on to Tell, who I really like, but it's also, that's coated with this kind of bittersweet recognition of, well, you sign these guys and their first game for the club with 2 training sessions is to go to Anfield against the best team in the country, maybe the best team in Europe at the moment. That doesn't feel very fair. And it also, I understand kind of the way the transfer market works, in the sense that sometimes you have to do deals late because clubs aren't willing to sell. I get that, but there was an inertia this window which has made that game kind of no win. I didn't feel there was any circumstance in the end in which we ended up going to Wembley. That's a really shit place to be.
Well, Wembley, I don't mind it. Oh.
Yeah, that too. Like, we all spent enough time there, right? Like,
and
having to get out to Wembley Park after night games. I don't want to go back there. I don't want that. But I don't. You should look forward to those games.
Yeah.
Right. You shouldn't feel as if you've been. You shouldn't feel as if you've had your oxygen taken away from you as a fan by the fact that the club have allowed a group of players to be run into the ground. I got a little bit upset when Richarlison went off injured, because I just thought, okay, so he's come back from a long-term injury and he's played how many games in 3 weeks? I'm not smart enough to explain, soft tissue injuries, whatever. I don't actually know what the diagnosis for his injury is, but being the season, given what the season's been to this point, I'm sure he's out forever. But how is this responsible? How are so many players being put in this situation? How is a player as dynamic as Dejan Kulusevski? He looks like he's running in a storm now. Like, he just looks exhausted.
Yeah, they do look exhausted. Yeah.
So that is not really an answer to your question, but that's just a set of disconnected, disgruntled sentences, one after the other.
Well, that's where we all are at the moment. But
I don't know. Like, truthfully,
this is a safe space to rant. Said it's fine.
That's why I came on. Like, I was doing you a favor, but actually,
it's for you.
Look, one player that did come in, albeit very, very late, was Matisse Tel. Talk to us about him, but also what do you know about the deal itself? Obviously, we heard he didn't want to come, and then Langer went out, and then Levy went out. What actually happened? Do you know him? But talk to us about him as a player as well.
Okay, I'll go in reverse order. So, as a player, very, very talented player, arrived in Germany to Bayern Munich when he was 17 years old in 2022, and he was worth nearly 30 million euros. The difficulty he had was he turned up and he was immediately brilliant. He scored an amazing goal, which I'm sure everybody's seen on the compilations now on YouTube, against Viktoria Cologne in the Pokal. Scored in his Bundesliga debut, and I don't think you needed too much imagination to see kind of a young Thierry Henry in some of those clips, and everybody lost their mind, and quite reasonably so, because if you hunted around the list of the times of, you know, the biggest prospects, the best players of their generation, players who are going to be stars when they were 25, those kind of compilation lists that the media pump out, it's on all of them, and rightly so. My take on what's happened is a couple of things. Firstly, it's Bayern Munich, and he's playing in one of the most congested areas of the pitch. He's also competing for time in an area of the pitch where Bayern have a lot of money invested. So if you were to look at the top 10 earners in the Bundesliga, they all play for Bayern Munich. 6 of those, I think it might even be 7 now, with Michael Olise joining the club in the summer. 6 of those play in positions that Matisse Tel could occupy. The impact of that has been twofold. It's been that he's never really had the rhythm to develop as a player. He's never had the opportunity to feel safe in the team, where, like, you know, you come in and you can have a bad couple of games, but there's enough kind of institutional faith in you where it doesn't really matter, which every player needs. The second problem is that he's never really developed, he's never really shown what his best position is. So is he a wide forward? Is he a number 9? Don't know. No one can answer that question properly yet, because he's never had the opportunity to make one of those roles his own in senior football.
Well, he might have that opportunity now with no 9 for Spurs.
That's what I was thinking. Was, I mean, I don't want to call it a silver lining, but let's just call it a thing that wasn't bad about last night.
He did play 9 and left wing both last night. No, he was up front, and then Son and him swapped towards the end. Yeah.
When he was surrounded by like 7 Liverpool players.
Yeah.
He played all sorts of roles last night, right?
Yeah.
The deal itself, an interesting one. So there's been this sentiment in Munich for some time that he needs to play, rightly. And so if you go back to autumn 2024, I think the likely direction of travel was possibly a loan move to a club like Werder Bremen, which is kind of a medium-sized club in terms of kind of current stature in German football, sort of middle of the pack in the Bundesliga. That never really happened. And then Eintracht Frankfurt were interested in doing something when Omar Marmoush was obviously moving to Manchester City, because you could have slotted him in there, and that would have been a very nice sort of 6 months solution for everybody involved. Something changed in January, because we went from, in the middle of the month, Max Ebel, who is the board member for sport, is very, very positive about Tel's future. Might have been Christoph Freund, the sports director. I forget. Sorry if I've got that wrong, but one of the two. So senior executive figures at Bayern said, you know, we believe in him. He's got a great future. We want him to be a star at Bayern Munich. I think, this is my opinion. It's not, this is not necessarily fact, but I think he was expecting a slightly broader range of options for a permanent agreement. So when the first Spurs opportunity came up, I think there was kind of a reluctance to give up on his Bayern Munich future. I understand that. It's a very, very big club. You don't get many chances there. And then, the rest is kind of what everybody else knows, which is that, Ange made a phone call. But I also think that the penny may have dropped about just how scarce his opportunities may have been at Bayern, were he to stay, but also he just didn't have opportunities elsewhere. So Manchester United, Arsenal, I feel like there was a lot of reporting which wasn't necessarily reflective of the situation. I think the way we reported it on The Athletic was Tottenham was really his only viable destination. And yeah, we reported all that stuff for a reason.
Do you expect it to be a permanent in the summer, or that remains to be seen?
Ange seems to think so.
Remains to be seen. Let's see. I think if you want to test out right?
After last night,
right? So you go 3 days ago. He's training with Thomas Müller, Manuel Neuer, Joshua Kimmich, and then all of a sudden there you are, and it's not great, right? So there will be better days ahead, I'm sure, for everybody, for him, for the club, for all that stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. It's an option. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. That's not necessarily something to quote. That's not based on reporting. I just think it's common sense, looking at the situation, looking at the players' talent, and looking at the fact that almost certainly Tottenham are not going to be playing European football next season, barring something ridiculous happening in the Europa League or the FA Cup. It's just not going to happen. So financially, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very big fee to be paying for, historically. If you look at when Tottenham pay those kind of fees in the past, it's usually with the support of Champions League revenue in the background. Don't have it. We can have an entirely different conversation about how much money should still be available, even despite that lack of qualification. Completely fair perspective, but that's probably a different podcast, I guess. So I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows, and I think anybody who approaches this with any certainty at the moment, I think it's guesswork.
Obviously, we didn't see much of him last night. You can't really gauge anything from that. But how was he viewed then in Germany at Bayern? What kind of player are they? Were they sort of upset to see him go? And what kind of player are we getting in that sense?
Yeah, I think they're upset to see him go because he's very well liked. He's a very good trainer. He's a good professional. He's popular within the squad. There are no issues there at all. I think Bayern were quite keen to raise a bit of money. They've got some big contracts they're writing at the moment, principally Jamal Musiala. They're also going into a kind of a period of renewal where they're kind of they're reconfiguring their squad, which they're in the process of. But there's some big money that still needs to be spent in the future. As a player, I think hugely talented, and certainly someone who, if you can, it's like I think probably the best way of describing it is, forgive the metaphor, he's a little bit like an out-of-tune instrument in an orchestra. Like, there's something there, there's something that can add to what you have. It just doesn't quite fit the picture at the moment. And it's never, the difficulty at Bayern is, like, you so rarely get the opportunity, particularly if you look at the fixture list now, to take a few games off. The title is still up for grabs with Leverkusen. They're in the Champions League knockout rounds. They're not in the podcast. There aren't that many easy games, despite what people say about German football. Yeah. So you don't have the chance to sort of play him in roles, and as a result, you don't get the opportunity for him to kind of, let's go back to the ugly metaphor, but to play himself into tune. And so I think we have this tremendous asset who's really going to appreciate in value, but we don't quite know what to do with him. And also, we have all these other players who we're paying so much money to: Coman, Gnabry, Elise, Müller, Kane. Like, it's just endless list. Musiala, I guess, even though Tell doesn't really play in that role. So you're kind of wasting him, I think. So I think that would be the perspective. Bayern have been a bit tight-lipped about it. They still maintain that they've only ever said positive things about him. They haven't talked in any way whatsoever about what they expect to happen in the summer. So we just have to wait and see on that. But yeah, it's just a situation which could have gone better than it might have done. He was also, remember, he was signed just before they kind of cycled through a succession of coaches. So he was signed to play for Julian Nagelsmann, who was then dismissed. Thomas Tuchel came in. Tuchel was famously criticised by Uli Hoeneß, honorary president, for not progressing young players. I don't necessarily agree with that as a criticism, but that was a criticism. And then under Vincent Kompany, who has promoted young players a little bit more. So he's been unfortunate in the sense that he's existed between eras, and he's a little bit of a victim of that, and so hasn't had perhaps the continuity that he might have done, or that he would have needed to become the player they hoped he would be, if that isn't too much of a jumble of words. So yeah, it's very vague. There isn't one right answer to that question, I don't think.
I want to shift to managers because I think it's very clear that amongst Spurs fans, the sentiment on Ange has shifted. There are a number of people calling for him to be let go. Some of my friends that are decently versed on the Bundesliga have talked up Sebastian Hoeneß. Not seen him linked at all, but he's being touted as a quality young manager. Can you tell me a bit about him, and also if you had to go and scour the Bundesliga for a new coach for Tottenham, who would you be interested in?
Yeah, Hoeneß first. Hoeneß is a really interesting one because previously he was an academy coach at Bayern Munich. He's a Bavarian. He is the nephew of Uli Hoeneß. He's the son of Dieter Hoeneß, both former Bayern Munich players. One you've heard of, one you probably haven't. Had a bit of a tricky time at Hoffenheim. Didn't go as well as it might have done. Went to Stuttgart when they were under threat of relegation. So that would have been towards the end of the 2022-23 season. I think it was in the spring when he came in, and they were a very conservative counter-attacking team. Stuttgart, a very big club, very well funded, very well supported, but had really kind of, since returning to the Erste Bundesliga from the Zweite Bundesliga, had not really established themselves, been kind of a little bit of a yo-yo side. We're looking like they might get relegated again. In his first couple of months, they had to survive a relegation playoff against Hamburg. But then within a year, found themselves finishing second. Yeah. Not only that, they were not only sort of positionally far superior to what they were, like style-wise, Hoeneß turned them from being kind of a fearful side that would just sit behind the ball and, you know, depend upon their pace, to being one of the most attractive teams in Germany, I think. And he kind of developed all sorts of individual careers. So Maxi Mittelstadt, who played fullback for the German national team in the Euros, no one in 2023 thought in a year's time he'd be playing for the national team. He'd moved from Hertha Berlin for $500,000. Like, it was a pretty unremarkable career. I'd add Chris Furyk into that, who is kind of I suppose a bit of a kind of he was born in the Ruhr, so kind of Ruhr Valley Jack Grealish type. Imagine that, really. And he got to the national team too. Karazor as well. Like, there's all these individual stories in there that he was responsible for. The only caveat I would say is that it's been a little tricky this year. They've been in the Champions League. They've had some good performances. They've put their best foot forward. Certainly in the Bernabeu in the first match day, I think they played really, really well. Got absolutely hammered by PSG to be eliminated in the last round of matches. So yeah, he's absolutely.
They ruined my accumulator last week and losing at home to Mönchengladbach.
On behalf of all people who live in Germany, I apologize to you for that. But joking aside, he's done a great job. He's done an amazing job. What I'd say is that I think his future ends up at Bayern Munich because yes, that familial connection, but forgetting Uli Hoeneß and whatever that means, I think he's very popular there. There's a lot of people think really highly of him. I think that's his future. I also, I don't think I've seen him linked with Spurs. But I would be surprised. It's not a great fit. I also think hasn't quite shown enough. Like, you've done the kind of the miracle act, right, to take Stuttgart up into the Champions League to finish second. Amazing. And he might do it again this season, possibly. But I don't know. I'd want to see him a little bit more. Like, can he cope with some of the other parts of Premier League life, the media handling, expectations? Managing Tottenham's quite different to managing Stuttgart. The Premier League is very different to the Bundesliga for all sorts of reasons that you all know. So I don't know about that. I don't think at the moment there's an obvious candidate for someone that would work at Spurs. I don't like.
Is that anywhere or just from the Bundesliga?
Well, yeah, but this is a serious point, right? Like, they've tried every type of coach.
Yeah.
There's you done the win now, quote unquote, guy that sort of salts the earth. You've done progressive Pochettino. You've done kind of radical ideologue, and I don't know what category Wande Ramos fits into, but you've done that. You've done Martin Jol. You've done Redknapp. What's left?
Well, I think I think you go back to the Poch and Iraola gives me those vibes. I want to ask you. Go on.
Then,
go on.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, but there's no one in the Bundesliga currently, just racking my mind, that jumps out as someone that. I mean, Herzler left. I live in Hamburg, and I saw firsthand what Herzler did at St. Pauli, which was absolutely amazing. Not surprised that he got that opportunity. Completely deserved it.
I really like him.
Having a little tricky time at the moment, but he's a very, very good coach. I don't think there's anybody at the moment who is an obvious candidate who I would cheerfully promote as, hey, this is the guy.
Yeah.
There isn't that character at the moment. So yeah, don't know.
Can I ask you, just before we let you go, Seb, can't not have you on and not talk about Dyer and specifically Harry Kane. Sure. We had Kevin Hatchard on recently. I asked, is Harry Kane going to end that trophy drought? Seb Stafford-Bloor, is Harry Kane going to end that trophy drought?
Yeah, I think so. So on February the 15th, Bayern go to Leverkusen at the Bayer Arena, so away. They have a 6-point lead at the top of the Bundesliga at the moment. If they win that game, curtains for Leverkusen, really, who haven't quite been where they were last season. Kane's in a really interesting moment. God, I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, I've let myself down there, really. But he is, because he's actually suffered quite a lot of criticism from the German media from being terribly excited about him appearing 18 months ago. Some of them have started writing things like, well, you can't, can you win big trophies with this guy?
Oh, God.
And having had the benefit of seeing Kane written off how many times during his Tottenham career, like how many times do you see a tweet from someone going, yeah, this is the end, like when he was about 25, and then all of a sudden a 30-goal season later. And so I think he's playing well. He had a little bit of a open play goal drought between November and February, but scoring again, playing well, really good sort of team performance, playing really deep, taking the ball off his defenders and goalkeepers sometimes. And I think it's a good Bayern team. It's not an all-powerful one. It's not what it was under Guardiola. But they've suffered, that team has been degrading for quite a few years. And this is probably the first season since I've been here that they've started to pitch up a little bit. And Kane's been a big part of that, and a big part of like helping some of these other individuals rejuvenate their careers. Musiala is not a rejuvenated career, he's just a star, but Coman is playing really well. Gnabry is starting to play pretty well again. Elise has had a wonderful year, who everyone here knows, of course.
He's magic.
And, some of his early performances were characterized by really nice combinations with Kane. And Dyer, people love Dyer. Like, he's not an essential first-team player, but he's really, really highly respected by non-playing members of staff. Like, people talk about what a good influence he is, and what a good person he is to have around. Sounds like Harry Redknapp, have around the place, right? But yeah, like, even if you probably don't, but if you were following Joshua Kimmich on Instagram, you'd see Kimmich calling him the best teammate in the world. Wow. Because he turns up every day. He's not guaranteed minutes, trains as hard as anybody.
He probably can't believe it, to be honest. Yeah. He probably can't believe where he's ending up. Good luck to him.
He's been an asset, and actually he's played very well. Like, people like to poke fun at Eric Dyer because it's been a strange thing for him to end up at Bayern Munich. He's done really, really well. Like, in a dysfunctional defense last season when nobody talked to each other, there was no communication. Neuer was out for a long period. Like, he was the one player that communicated and brought a little bit of coherence. And you can't always find players like that, and you definitely can't always find them available in January for very little money. And I think, given the size of the challenge and the scale of that club, which is just ridiculous, it's an enormous football club, he's done brilliantly, and he's been a credit to himself, and he's deservedly respected for that.
Great assist for Kane the other day as well.
That was nice to see. Was it the first English assist to a goal in Bundesliga history?
Like that.
That was nice. Seb, thank you so much for joining us. Nice to move away from talking about the drubbing in Liverpool to talk about Tell and Dyer and Kane and get your thoughts on German football, as you are so well versed. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, Seb.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Well, we'll see what Villa brings.
Kane release clause in.
I saw that 50-odd mil.
If he's a sadist, he'll come back.
Well, Paul Merson said he was going to go to Arsenal. Listen, great to talk to Seb, Spurs fan, who was obviously very upset, but nice to move it away from that chat and hear about Kane and Dyer and
I didn't
and
realise
Tell.
you had an acca busted in Europe.
Yeah.
Didn't realise you gambled.
Yeah, I like a little acca. Who doesn't like an acca?
Little flutter.
Yeah, bloody Mönchengladbach. But I did win a Saudi treble last night.
Did you?
Yeah, well, now commentating on that stuff, I would call
Saudi
myself
treble?
a bit of an expert.
Oh yeah. Who was it?
It required a late goal from Al Ittihad, Benzema's team.
Oh right. Well, share the tips next time.
I want to pick up on Daniel Pinker's ask during the chat with Seb, unrelated to the chat with Seb, but on Monday's show, the panel agreed Ange is auditioning for his job between now and the end of the year. What does the panel think he needs to achieve to keep his job? Well, that kind of ties into playing Villa next. Does he need to win a trophy to keep his job, or does he just need to steady the ship, and regardless of if we go out to Villa or not, start picking up some league wins? I actually think it's great to win a trophy, and I said it on Monday. I think the league now, you've got to start seeing an upturn in the performances overall, not just in the cups.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Basically, you're saying, but if we were to win a cup,
Yeah.
and finish 14th, does it save him?
It's that old
No, it definitely
question again.
It definitely saves
I don't
him.
know if it does.
Whether the fans will... No, but I don't think they'll... I think the fans may not be happy with that,
Okay.
but I can't see the club firing
Yeah,
him.
okay.
And actually, what may be more likely to save him than anything else is that if he were to win one of those cups, they'll be at the end of the season. He wins the Carabao Cup, for example, and then we finish 17th.
Yeah, it's all gone out.
Then he's in big trouble.
Yeah, but look at Ten Hag, wins a cup, and what did it do for them?
No, but that's a different math. That was But you're saying, will they sack him?
No, you think no.
I think that
Dean says,
if he was to imagine, would you be calling for him to be sacked if we got to the end of the season and you're stood there at Wembley or in Bilbao and we've won?
No, probably not.
No one's calling for him to be
Do you know
sacked,
what I'll
even
be
if we
saying?
finish 14th.
Do you know what I'll be saying? I'll be saying it's great we've won a cup. I still don't believe this.
Golden handshake, thank you and goodbye.
I still don't believe this is the guy.
Yeah.
Let's discuss this again in October when we're struggling. In the
Yeah.
league. You know, Dean says we lose to Villa, he has to go. Probably does, but he's not going. I think he's here to the end of the season.
He's
I think
definitely
the Brentford win was massive for him.
He's definitely here to the end of the season.
Yeah.
They would have done it already by now, and I don't think they were just waiting to see how we get on in the cups. Because then, what about the Europa League? Yeah. That's not the same. That's not the same though as to whether you think he should go.
Yeah. No, I
just have a hunch.
I think he's got to the end of the season as well.
Yeah.
Because there's no one else, or because they feel sympathy for the injuries.
I think a bit of both.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that everyone in the club is ignoring his style contributing to the injuries. I don't believe that to be true.
Do you trust
they must be aware of it?
Do you trust that they know what they're looking at?
I don't know. I'd like to think with a sporting director now and this style and the way we've been buying players, and Ange talking about, I know I might not see the best of these young players I'm buying. One thing Ange has done well with the support of the recruitment is build a squad for beyond him. We just have to make sure we stick with attacking coaches. Hopefully someone with a bit more defensive nous, maybe. I think if he has, I think if we get I'd like a good cup run in the FA Cup, beat Villa at the weekend, keep progressing the Europa League, but the be-all and end-all is that league position.
I think so.
I think the be-all and end-all with that league position as well is just prize money for each position up. That would be important to the
chairman
club.
might think that.
I think that's what the club might think. If we're truly flirting with 17th position, 18th, I reckon he'd be gone. Brentford win was huge, but yeah, I think the league is the be-all end-all. And hey, if we're at the FA Cup on Sunday, who knows?
I like this comment by Hotspur Sam. Has the board nailed their colours to the wrong mast?
Yes.
I like that in a literal sense. And you see Daniel Levy in a boat and he's sailing down the river going, I'm on the wrong boat.
Some people would like that. I think so. I think what's happened now is the fans are so fed up with change that actually they're, I don't say supporting Ange, but they've gone for the chairman, and actually I'm not saying they should go. We shouldn't all stand there singing "We want Ange out." I don't like that in the stadium. But actually, the focus has been on the chairman. And actually, I think the Ange is quite lucky that the focus is on the chairman.
Well, I in a way, yes, but I think that the latest report that came out that had the wage to revenue ratio, I think has been a bit. I pray that the board see the reaction to that and have some kind of shift in philosophy and mentality.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if the manager's still losing games.
But the problem is that the fans have seen this over quite a long period of time. It's been one of the great narratives of Tottenham, hasn't it? That the countless managers haven't been backed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I necessarily believe that, but that's what the narrative is. Countless managers haven't been backed by the board in terms of wage, the amount spent on wages, and to a lesser extent bringing players in, because I think they have spent a fair amount on transfers. But it's the wage, and now people get confused on that as well. Oh, they don't spend the money. Well, actually, they do spend the money in one half, but they haven't spent the money in the other half to get wages.
We're seventh on wages.
It's all very well, yeah, exactly. And actually, a bit like what Seb was saying there, where do you go next in terms of style of manager?
I don't know why you pointed.
He's gone. He was there. A bit like what he was saying in that, we got lucky with Poch, to be able to get us to around the second, third, fourth position, but while always being the fifth or sixth highest you're not wages,
and the world best striker coming out of
and
our
the world
academy.
best striker. You can't repeat that trick forever and ever and ever. Okay, yes, we seventh highest. We're 14th.
Yeah,
but this idea always that we should be challenging for the top four. Yeah, but you agree. But most fans think, we'll win a trophy, finish fourth or fifth. That'd be a good season. But do you understand what that actually means? You're constantly the seventh highest wage payers in the Premier League. You don't have any right to be finishing fourth.
We've been punching above our weight a little bit for sure.
But you can't do it. You can't do it forever.
Correct. No, and like you said, we've lost. Talk to Seb. We've lost to Kane. We've lost a Harry Kane. You can't replace that.
We've lost Harry Kane.
Not a Harry Kane. Sorry, a player like Harry Kane is what I meant.
Your Canes. Is that what you mean?
We got to go. So I know you wanted to.
I'd say I think we're for sale, and it's clear.
We are for sale, but it's going to take a long time to sell the club. My shoelace keeps coming undone, and I'm trying to tie it with one hand.
What you're
don't
saying
try
is,
and tie shoelace with one hand.
These deals don't get done overnight.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, we got to go. There's another pod coming into the wonderful Launch Pod Studios. Quickly, we haven't talked about Villa. We've sort of talked about how important the cup is, but prediction for Sunday at Villa, please.
I can't see it. I can't see it.
I don't know. I don't want to give a scoreline.
Do we have anyone back?
No.
Well, we haven't heard the presser. Well, that friend of the show.
Presser's now, I think.
Is it? Okay. Well, Ben Dinnery's website had some players coming back on the 9th. Jake, Daniel Pincus asks who's on the panel on Monday. I need to ask you that.
Why are you asking me?
Well, Jack, are you here on Monday? Was it
Monday?
Yeah.
Are we doing Monday?
Yeah.
Potentially. Potentially.
Gary's back on Monday. He's back he's going to Villa. He was at Liverpool.
He's not even going home, is he?
Postecoglou said he won't have any of his injured Spurs players back for Sunday's game.
I mean, honestly, thanks, Ange, mate, for blowing up.
So what's the team very quickly? Porro comes back in.
Yeah.
Spence left back.
Danso Davis again.
Not Danso Gray. No, you have to play Davis.
Danso Davis.
I really like Davis.
Bergvall will play. Bergvall will play instead of one of the two in midfield.
Tell up front.
He's got to play more. He's got to play more.
He might play more.
Poor Matisse Tell. I mean,
I know
the guy. I've joked and said it so many times about Manchester United and young players over the last few years. Matisse Tell. I mean,
did you see him trying to get the
fans? He doesn't. I feel sorry for the guy. He doesn't have a hope. I think if he has to play through the middle, because I think of the three positions across the front, he's played there the least in his career.
He might play Son down the middle.
No one's
play Kulu down the middle.
Yeah,
no one's creating for him either. I just don't. Regardless of where he plays, I just don't see anyone creating him a chance. I think we lose. Maybe 1-0.
I think
Villa are weird as well.
Yeah, they got Watkins probably out.
Yeah,
Rashford will be on the bench. I think we'll beat them.
Oh, but they've got Duran. Oh no, they don't.
No, they don't.
They sold him.
By the way,
bags.
We'd be livid. You sell Duran and then Watkins gets injured. Oh, right, we got to go. Oh, Scarlett might play.
No, he's cup tied.
He played for Oxford, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Moore has to start.
Who knows with this? I call it great football
Moore
club.
to take on.
Do you remember
Ian
that
Maatson?
last season, the double false 9 against Man City, when we had no strikers and it worked really well? Sarr and Maddison played up front, basically.
In which game?
Versus City.
Which one?
Second match of the season.
The one, the Arsenal.
I believe.
Don't win. So the Arsenal
away.
No, I think so. I think it was last season.
I don't remember any of this.
Played Sarr and Maddison up front as like a double false 9. I think it was away. I can't remember. I just remember how we played. Like, give us some of that invention. That was fun. Do Son and Tell both up front, double false 9s, get more on the left, Kulusevski on the right.
Ollie Spiro's been saying all along that Son could play central if you've got someone off it.
Yeah,
someone in.
Absolutely.
James is here. We're done. They keep talking. I'm trying to end it. I'm doing the predictions and everything. We're going.
Excited for
We're going.
formations.
Jake, I'm going to see you on Monday. Don't give me this maybe. James, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us in the comments as always. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we'll see you on Monday. Press the button. Up the Spurs.